how I killed somebody in Texas.
I watched that 7-part story, so you don't have to. We're gonna call him G. So G is telling us the story of how he unalived somebody in Texas and then ended up being involved in a drive-by shooting in Cleveland shortly after that. So him and his friends were down in Houston for like something called like a Houston takeover, where people that live in Cleveland fly down to Houston and they have this whole like night out, they party, they do all these types of fun things in Houston, right? So he's out there for that. They have an Airbnb, him and his girl, 2 of her friends, and then her cousins all go out, right? So the night that they're supposed to leave, his friends, his girl, and her friends, her cousins, they all decide to go out. They come back. His friends are too lit to go out again, so it ends up just being him, his girl, and then her friends that go out again. They take 2 cars. So when they pull up to the strip club, he immediately gets like bad vibes off the place, right? He's like, you know what? I don't feel comfortable. He's like, let's just leave and let's just go get food. There ends up being like a 24-hour food truck spot right across the street from the club. So they try to go to the gas station, they circle around, they can't find the truck. Come to find out, his girlfriend's friend in the other car was feeling sick, so he wanted to go check on the girl and make sure she's okay. And he's leaning on the car and he's like asking her if they're okay, and he doesn't know this. The detective tells him later on. He didn't notice until a car pulled up right behind him that somebody had lapped the gas station 2 times and was right behind him. Now mind you, G had a pew pew in his car, but it's in his car. All of a sudden he hears 2 doors open and 2 people walk out. They point the pew pew at him and they're like, yeah, run that shit. So he saw the guy jump out and he had a big old Draco on him, right? And so he's like, all right. So he presses the Draco against G's back and he walks him back to the car, right? At the time he was driving a rented i8 BMW. So that car sits really low to the ground, right? So he turned around and he faced the guy that was attacking him, and he kind of just like fell back into the car because the pew pew that he had in the car was right underneath the steering wheel. So he just flopped back into the car, grabbed his pew pew, and just started letting off on the dude, right? So then he falls down. Then he remembers there's another guy. So the other guy appears, he takes him down too. He hops in the car and he skirts off. Mind you, as he's skirting off, there's cops right at the intersection. He's thinking, oh, they saw me. He's like, yeah, come get me. Like, I'd rather you come and get me rather than they catch up to me or something like that. So the cop doesn't do anything. He doesn't sound his alarm, nothing. So they head right back to the Airbnb. They get back and he is shook. He's like throwing up. He's going through it. Like, he understands the gravity of what just happened, right? Like, he just caught a body in Texas. Immediately he calls his homeboys back in Cleveland, tells them what's going on. They get him a lawyer. So when he checked out of the Airbnb, he told the guy that he rented the car from Monturo, like, hey, your car is in this location, come and get it. And to find out, the police were obviously investigating the situation. The whole thing happened in a gas station that was very well lit. G was pretty sure he got caught on 4K doing all this. And so investigators show up at the Turo guy's house asking questions about the whereabouts of that vehicle on that night. Talks to the lawyer. The lawyer is like, stay in Texas. Mind you, he was supposed to leave the next morning. The lawyer was like, nah, stay there. So he ends up renting a hotel for the next 6 to 7 days. Now G's in a hotel room waiting on what the lawyer is going to tell him as far as like, is he clear to go back home? So Texas homicide detectives end up reaching out to G and being like, hey, can we talk to you? Like, we have questions. Just on his own decision, he decided not to reach out back to them, but his lawyer also advised him not to say anything. Finally, after like 5 or 6 days, his lawyer was like, okay, you're cleared, go back to Cleveland. However, do not fly. You might be on like a wanted list. Make sure you drive back. So he's like, damn, this is gonna be a 24-hour drive back to Cleveland. So he starts making his trek back home. 24 hours on the road by yourself, you're gonna have a lot of time to think, especially after going through a traumatic situation like he just did. So he's just driving and he's thinking like, damn, like I just caught a body, like I'm not even in jail, I'm not in handcuffs, I didn't even talk to no cops, like this is crazy. Like he referred to it as a freebie. So on his way back, he actually ends up finding out that the guy was actually from Cleveland as well. He wasn't from Texas. So now he's thinking, damn, like I thought I left all my issues back in Texas. He's like, there's probably gonna be issues back home. So he gets back home and he kind of changes up his routine. He's not going to the same spots. He decides to stay at his cousin's house for a while. So he also looked up the guy that he unalived and he's like, oh, this guy is a bad guy. Like he's done stuff, like he has a record, da da da. He's like, I'm the good guy, he's the bad guy. Nothing more to say about that. He's hearing around town they're saying like people want retaliation, and he's thinking like I acted in self-defense. They pulled up on me. I didn't do anything wrong, you know? And so either way, he switched up his routine. He's staying at his cousin's house and he's not thinking about these people, right? He don't know them really. He doesn't really involve himself in local drama anyway. So he's like, I don't know who these people are associated with. So he's at his cousin's house. He walks in and there's a group of people there. He don't recognize any of them. He walked right past them, right? Come to find out, his little cousin, not the cousin he was staying with, his little cousin is cool with the people that are cool with the guy he unalived. He didn't even realize it. He walked right past them. They took it as an opportunity to realize where he'd be hanging out. And so again, he's not putting two and two together. That happened all in May. It's June, and he's walking with his son from his cousin's house, which is right here. It's his cousin's house, a house in between, and then the store. So he's walking to the store. He ends up having like an intrusive thought, like, oh, what if somebody ran in here right now? But he's like, I have thoughts like that all the time. Like, I'm always thinking about being in a dangerous situation. So he didn't think much of it. He's walking out. He's trying to grab something out of a bag and hand it to his son, and he notices a car pull up and just like stop right in front of them. And so he looks at his son and he's like, run. So his son runs off. Before G can go and grab his pew-pew, he hears a shot ring off. Boom, hits him right in the elbow, immobilizes his arm. He can't grab his pew-pew anymore. He doesn't realize it, but he got hit a second time as well. Right after the car lets off the shots, they drive off. He doesn't even understand the severities of his injuries at this point, right? He's on the floor and he's like, yo, I can't stay here. Like, they might come back and try to finish the job. By the sheer power of his will, he gets up and he goes to the back of the building and he's holding onto a bush. And that's when his cousin runs out and she tries to help him. But he's such dead weight at this point, she can't even hold on to him. He ends up going back on the floor. And he's just thinking like, this is crazy. Like, is this really how I'm gonna like end my life? Like, he's looking around trying to get his last few sights. Like, he's really like, wow, like, this is messed up. And he hears his mother eventually arrive. She's screaming, she's hollering, she's just trying to figure out how to help her son, right? Next thing he knows, first responders have showed up and they're trying to assist him. They're like, hey, where have you been hit? He's only aware that he's been hit in his arm, right? So they put a tourniquet on his arm. He said it was the most painful thing he's ever experienced. He ends up waking up briefly while he's in the ambulance on his way to the hospital. He said it felt like a movie. He didn't even realize what was going on, really. They're just working on him, trying to keep him alive. When he gets to the hospital, the nurse is trying to put the oxygen thing on his face, and he's trying to tell her, like, I can't breathe. If you keep doing that, you're making it harder for me to breathe. I don't think at this point they knew he had been shot through the heart. It clipped both of his lungs and then it came out through his armpit. So he's telling her, like, I'm already having struggles, like, stop it, right? And she's trying to tell him, like, no, this is gonna help you. And he's like, no, you're not helping me. So G is in the ER. They're trying to work on him and he's refusing treatment until he is updated on the status of his son. He's like, no, I don't care about me. Forget about me. Tell me how my son is. I don't care. And so finally they went and got his mother, and his mother came in and was like, your son is fine. He's okay. So right when he heard that his son was safe, he said he just passed out at that point. And so they were able to work on him. He woke up. He had tubes down his throat. He had wires and cables all over him. And you can go on his page and see what his like injuries look like when he first, even got the thing pulled out of his armpit. Like, it's pretty freaking gnarly. It's an insane story. He said verbatim when he woke up, he looked up at everybody and said, damn, they effed me up. I'm so sorry that this happened to him. I'm glad that you're safe. It seems like just a bunch of being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Even what happened in Houston, it's like, why would that happen to you? Why did they choose you? Besides you having like a really nice car at the moment, I don't know why they would choose you to like, decide to rob you. But either way, I'm really glad that you're safe. This is super, super scary. I was watching this with my jaw on the floor. I'm not even gonna lie to you, but I'm really glad that you're safe. Y'all go show him love. You guys tag me in this bunch. I wanted to make sure I got it out to you guys. I appreciate you guys as always. Bye.